Bellevue, Florida, was the kind of town where neighbors waved across driveways and families trusted one another's routines. Among those families was Robin Upson, a woman in her 50s known for her warmth and faith. She was a mother who carried herself with quiet strength, often described as dependable and deeply rooted in her family. Robin's life wasn't one of extravagance. It was steady, close to home, and built around people she loved. But in the summer of 2018, that peace was shattered. Robin suddenly stopped answering calls. Days stretched on with no word, and her family knew something was wrong. They noticed small but troubling signs: her absence from home, the disappearance of her van, and belongings left untouched. These were the kinds of threads only loved ones can recognize, clues that a life had been violently interrupted. The breakthrough came on August 7, 2018, when a hiker trekking through the dense Ocala National Forest made a horrifying discovery: human remains, later identified as Robin's torso. The forest, just an hour from Bellevue, had become the dumping ground for a crime that was both brutal and deliberate. Detectives now had the grim confirmation that Robin had been murdered. Even as forensic teams studied the remains, investigators focused on the family van that had vanished with Robin. It became more than a vehicle, it was a lead, a moving piece of evidence. Days later, detectives located the van abandoned in Orlando, Florida. Inside and out, forensic testing revealed fibers, prints, and other indicators tying the vehicle directly to Robin's disappearance. To detectives, it was a map, one end in Bellevue where Robin lived, the other stretching into the shadows of a deliberate cover-up. The map pointed toward Christopher Lee Tokvar. Chris, as he was known to some, was not a stranger. He was a man with a troubled history, marked by instability and questionable choices. He had drifted in and out of Robin's life with promises that soured, financial dealings that turned suspicious, and behavior that unsettled those close to her. Detectives began piecing his movements together with growing certainty. Working with agencies across state lines, Marion County investigators traced him hundreds of miles away. On August 15, 2018, authorities arrested Tokvar in Jefferson, Texas, not yet on a murder charge but for grand theft of the van. To detectives, it was the crack in the door they needed. The first interrogation was calm and clinical. Detectives asked about the van, his whereabouts, and his connection to Robin.
So the next morning, after she had told me to leave, she wasn't around, so I went to the mom's house and I said, "Look, can I borrow your car? Robin's not here, truck's not here. I need to, do some chores and take care of my stuff." And basically, honestly, what I planned to do was go down to the airport and have, some friends wire me an airplane ticket, which never happened. I ended up taking Greyhound from Orlando. I was kind of forced to borrow the other vehicle, in my opinion,
Right.
because I had no other options. And, in the sense that, in my head, Robin was willing to leave me out on the street, and it's raining outside, and it's horrible weather at the time. So I was just like, I gotta, kind of look out for, my best interest at this point. And obviously that would be to just go back home with the wife, which didn't happen, unfortunately. So, that's basically it. And, I feel horrible that I, didn't respond to the mom after, she has her last text to me. She said she was calling the cops. And I'm like, "What are you calling the cops for? You gave me permission."
And the way she explained it to me was she told you, that you went to her, said, "Hey, Robin's taking me out. She's got the truck. Can I borrow the van?" And she told me, she told you, "Yes, just have it back for the dog."
Yes.
That's what she told you. Yeah. And so when you left, I think she told me you told her you'd been in Leesburg, looking for a place to stay.
Yes.
And when you weren't responding to her and didn't bring it back, that's when she felt you had stolen it. And if where'd you leave it anyway?
Orlando.
In Orlando. Right. And
And I kind of panicked. After I couldn't get a plane ticket, and I only had enough money to get a bus ticket, I figured the best thing to do would just be leave the keys in the van, and unfortunately, I never made the call and said, "Hey, this is where your van is." I probably should have.
I left the keys on the door on the outside.
The detective let silence stretch in between notes, shuffling a file, setting one page aside for another, changing posture just enough to signal a change in weight. When the subject turned, it was deliberate but not sudden. The theft of the van became a secondary note in the background, almost forgotten, as the focus redirected toward Robin Upson herself, the woman whose name was missing from every mile of Tokvar's story. The detective asked not about the car anymore but about her home, about the days she was last seen, and finally about her absence. The question now was not whether he had stolen a vehicle, but whether he knew what had happened to Robin's mother, and in that subtle but heavy change, the interrogation crossed from theft to murder.
Well, obviously, I'm not here just for a story. So, I'm sure you would think it'd be kind of unusual for somebody to fly from Florida to Texas to talk to you about a stolen vehicle.
I've seen some interesting things in my time.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm working on homicide.
Okay, who's homicide?
Robin's. And because you're the last one that I can put with her, I need to really get information from you to see where I need to focus my investigation. To see if you have any clues as to what happened, anybody who may be involved. But I need you to be as upfront with me as you can about what happened prior to you leaving. And nobody can make sense of it. And that's why I came from Florida to Texas to talk to you. Because from what I could see, you look like, you're not some young punk that I'd be dealing with on the street. You're a smart guy. You're my age. So you're not somebody I'm going to sit here and pull the wool over your eyes. But you look like
I probably need to talk to the lawyer that's, yeah.
Okay. If you want to talk to an attorney, if you're telling me you want an attorney, I can't ask you any more questions. You want to talk to him, Chris?
Yeah, I would like to know where.
I can't tell you what, if you're asking if you want to know the outcome, I can't tell you the outcome myself. I need you to fill in that blank form. I felt in my gut that you were going to be honest with me. Because looking at what I could of Chris Tagbar, he's a pretty upstanding guy. But you're honest, you're hardworking, something happened that made Chris do something that is out of character. And that's the answer that I need from you. I don't want somebody else filling in the blanks for Chris. I don't want him filling the blanks for Chris. I don't want to guess. I want Chris to tell me. Like I said, your mom believes you no matter what. So it was after the second tree?
Your sister always started yelling at me. I was in the back porch, smoking a cigarette, in the break, shooting a fucking knife at me. She got violent, came at me. Unfortunately, I had a fucking chainsaw in my hand.
She came at you with the knife? So what happens when she comes at you? You have a chainsaw in your hand.
I defend myself. We didn't like that movie. it was an electric chainsaw. Swung at the button.
Where did the chainsaw hit?
The arm and the neck.
This is on the back porch?
That was weird. He was ending up in the living room at that point.
So the chainsaw was on, or it was off?
It was on.
It was on.
It was electric.
Right. So the battery not plugged. So he hit the button that hit.
And it's automatically turned on.
When they hit her neck, did she die right there? In that position in the living room? So what happened after that?
I couldn't figure out how to fix it.
So you said you had to find out how to fix it. So what did you do?
What would you do?
I don't know. I freaked out about it. I wouldn't have a clue. I'd probably be thinking the same thing you're doing. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? He's going to believe me? After she died, did you go to Walmart after that? Is that where you purchased your sawzall? And tell me where all that took place at the sawzall. The garage. What did you do with my limbs or head?
We're going to use literature.
Someone asked you with a freaking knife, Chris. What happened? Go ahead.
I'm buried them in the backyard.
So tell me what I'm looking at. What did you do with her torso?
Jumped in it.
Did you freeze it? Freeze it first?
No, I tried to freeze it. I don't know what I was thinking, bro. I mean, I was freaking the fuck out, man.
How'd you freeze it? Or try to freeze it?
You freeze it.
The freezers in our house, there's no way to put her torso.
Yeah, no, I didn't freeze it.
It was during this same phase of questioning that one of the detectives placed a Bible on the table. Inside was a folded letter, handwritten by Robin's daughter.
Have you met someone before? What's that?
I don't want to try to do it.
Would you want to write anything to her?
What am I going to tell her?
The reason I asked was someone wanted me to give this to you. She bought this. She wrote it up. And she said, when you talk to Chris, would you please give this to her? And I told her I would. She says, she doesn't know details either. She just knows her mother's dead. And she said, as hard as it is for her, she knows she needs to forgive you. She says she feels you need Christ in your life. And she wanted you to have this. And I told her I'd tell you that, if she forgives you.
Summer, Robin's daughter, had asked the detective to give Chris a Bible, which she had tackled in a letter during her interview with the detectives.
And then also, I want to know if this individual, I know it's really weird, but I have a letter that I want to write. Mm-hmm. It's not spiteful or hateful. I want to write it, put it in a Bible, and would you or somebody be able to give it to this individual? Because they don't have them.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and that will help. It will help me heal, I think. And it's what I'm supposed to do, even though I don't feel that way right now.
Right.
But I need to.
Right.
By the time the case reached trial in 2019, prosecutors had built a chain of evidence too strong to ignore. They presented DNA results, forensic analysis of the saw, cell phone records, and Tokvar's own admissions. Detectives testified about the search, the van, and the interviews. The defense attempted to argue coercion and cast doubt on the timeline, but the jury saw through it. Christopher Lee Tokvar was convicted of second-degree murder and grand theft. The court sentenced him to life in prison, ensuring he would never have the chance to harm again. For Robin's family, the courtroom offered a measure of closure but not healing. Her daughter, who had slipped a letter into a Bible, listened as the judge read out the life sentence. It was justice in the legal sense, but for the family, it was also deeply personal, the acknowledgement of what they already knew, that Robin had been taken from them by deliberate violence. In Bellevue, the echoes of the case lingered. The Ocala forest, once just a stretch of wilderness, became tied forever to a mother's last moments. The van, once a family's means of everyday life, became the symbol of betrayal. And in the detectives' memories, the Bible and the letter stood as reminders that beneath every investigation lies the human weight of loss, love, and the fight for truth.